Hey guys, welcome to my first YouTube video, or my second. The first one was more like a brief intro, but this is my first major YouTube video. Welcome. Today I'll be speaking about my impostor syndrome. Let's dive right in. For the past month, the universe seemed to have been playing a very fast one on me by turning all spotlights on me. Everybody just seemed to be speaking about the impostor syndrome, and while I had not known about this before then, it felt too familiar. Now, Dr. Olumide Emmanuel spoke about the impostor syndrome on his YouTube channel. Ali Abdal also did the same thing. Even my university organized a webinar about the impostor syndrome. So what is this impostor syndrome? Psychologist Pauline Clance was the first person to study this impostor syndrome. According to Emmanuel Cox, Pauline Clance noticed that her undergraduate patients started developing a certain pattern. Although they had very high grades, they didn't seem to believe or accept that they deserved their spot in the university. Why was this happening? In short, impostor syndrome is a fraudulent feeling. When you start feeling like a fraud, as if you've not done enough to be earning what you're earning, or to gain the respect you're gaining now, or the accolades that people are giving unto you. So you often try to push it back, you often try to shove off accolades, you often try to make it seem like it is not a big deal. Oh, I didn't do so much. Oh, I didn't do it alone. Oh, I didn't do it. You never want to accept compliments. In her TED Talk, Lou Solomon discovered 4 symptoms of the imposter syndrome, and she calls it the Fantastic 4. Number 1, anxiety. You're always very anxious. You're always very worried they're going to find you out. You're always very worried about the next step, about the next thing to do. You're always on your toes. 2, perfectionism. You want every little detail to be perfect, to the granular details. You are always worried about, how am I doing? How is it going to be? Is it perfect? Are you crossing the T's or dotting the I's? Are the square pegs in the square holes and the round pegs in the round holes? Is everything perfect? You're always worried about perfecting everything. 3, self-doubt. You doubt yourself absolutely. You don't believe you can do it. Every single opportunity, you don't want to jump at it. You're leaving it to someone else to go there. And maybe somewhere along the line, you will now say, okay, if nobody wants to go, or if he goes first, then I probably can just give it a try. At least I won't be the first to try. Number 4, fear of failure. You probably don't want to try a lot of things because you don't want to fail. You don't want anybody to find out that finally we said it. He couldn't have done it anyway. He doesn't know how to do it. So I'm not going to try it. So because you are so afraid to fail, you never try new stuff, never start. I know quite a number of people would be feeling like, oh, this sounds very familiar because I probably have it. I know I do, I had it. And this brings me to my story of my imposter syndrome. Full disclosure, I never knew I had the imposter syndrome until I watched Dr. Olumide Emmanuel's video and Ali Abdal's talk about the imposter syndrome. I never knew it. But it felt very familiar. I knew something was not right somewhere. I knew I was always shying away from opportunities. I was shying away from the spotlight. I always tried to just give excuses why I shouldn't do some things. Sometimes I end up doing them anyways, but I must have tried to dodge once or twice before ending up at the place I never wanted to be, which is doing what I should be doing, what I was trained to do, and what I had the skills to do. You see, I just finished my PhD in 2021 and immediately got an opportunity for a postdoc outside my country. Before this time, I had never traveled out of my country. I had never experienced anything outside of my country. So it was a totally new experience for me. The culture was different, the people were different, the language was different, the food was different. Even the traffic was different because you had to move from left to right or right to left, whichever one. But everything was different for me. The people were different, the schools of thought were different, the training was different, the university was a different one. And so I thought, what am I doing here? On top of this, I was given a huge responsibility to mentor academics and colleagues and senior colleagues anyway, whom I thought were better equipped, better trained, more experienced than I was. And so I was shying away until it was forced. I couldn't just run away from it. I was given a huge program to plan and to execute, which involved a whole lot of universities in this new country that I was just coming into. I questioned my training. I questioned my background. I questioned if I was really prepared. I questioned everything. Was I well trained? Was I ready for this? Was I prepared for this? To make matters worse, I was treated with so much respect I wasn't sure I deserved or I had earned. From someone that was just coming out of university and coming into this role, I was used to the lecturer-student relationship where I would have to respect them. But I wasn't used to this relationship where I talk to academics like as colleagues, where we relate as colleagues, and they even respect my opinions and even seek my opinions in most cases. To be honest, I felt out of place. I wasn't sure I was prepared. I sometimes hid myself, sometimes overcompensated for what I thought I lacked. I was overworking myself. I was trying to prove myself to people that were probably thinking of how to make their own impact. But I knew I had to stop. I knew this had to stop. Regardless of this feeling, I was able to fulfill my responsibilities even way before my contract elapsed. The event I planned was a huge success. I was able to help students. I was able to help colleagues. But this impostor guy was still lurking and smiling at me as if to say, I'm still waiting for you. They're still going to find you out sometime. And I was always bothered. I knew I wasn't an impostor, but I couldn't help stop feeling like one. I knew this had to stop. And so I sought help. I started researching and looking for ways to beat this impostor guy at his game, to make sure that I'm liberated from this feeling of incompleteness, if there's an English like that. If you've watched to this point, please hit the like button below and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thank you so much. In my search for how to beat the impostor guy, I found out so many strategies that worked for people in beating the impostor syndrome. And guess what? You're not the only one. I discovered that a lot of people, successful people now, had this same syndrome. In fact, most successful people at some point in their life go through this phase. Michelle Obama is one of them. Albert Einstein is another one. Maya Angelou is another one. These are great people who have done so well in their spheres of influence, but then they still have this syndrome eating away at them internally, and nobody knew. They were fighting their own battles. I fought mine. So there are tons and tons of materials online on how to fight imposter syndrome. I'm going to add some of those links down in the description. But I've been able to come up with 5 major strategies that worked for me, and I'm sure it's going to work for you in any area of influence, whether in the academia or in business or as a student. 5 main ways to beat the imposter syndrome. Number 1, face it and call it out. Never you cower to the imposter guy, because bullies thrive when they are not called out. But once you call them out, they run, they scamper. The point is, make sure the imposter syndrome knows that you are aware of its presence in you, and that is the beginning towards you liberating yourself from this feeling of incompetence and insecurity. Number 2, know that it is okay to be human. To be human is to fail sometimes. To be human is to need help sometimes. To be human is not to be perfect. To be human is to make mistakes sometimes. And everybody needs someone. And every human has some flaw or some defect. Nobody is perfect, and it is okay to ask for help. Number 3, embrace your vulnerability. Make sure you have somebody that is going along with you in this journey that you can talk to, that you can open up to, and that you can be vulnerable around. There are people out there struggling with the same thing, but if you don't talk, you never know. But once you talk, you understand that, oh, the person you thought was doing so well and even probably better than you are doing is actually experiencing the same thing you're experiencing. By expressing your vulnerability and embracing it, it helps you to scale beyond it. It helps you now to live beyond and above it. So don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself. There's what we call spotlight effect. When we think that the whole world is looking at us, guess what? It's a lie. It's just in you. You are the one telling yourself that it is not real. Nobody's looking at you. Everybody is busy dealing with their own problems. Number 5, channel the feeling positively. Learn how to use your imposter syndrome positively, in a positive way. Make it push you instead of pull you back. Make it challenge you. Use the imposter syndrome to challenge yourself into doing new things. Like I'm doing now. I've beaten my imposter syndrome. Now I'm doing a YouTube video about the imposter syndrome. I'm calling it out in the same way as well, and I'm sharing it. I'm being vulnerable about it. And now I'm using it to challenge myself to even do more, to do better, and then to break more bounds. I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel, but I never got around to doing it because I thought people would think, oh no, you're not good enough, or you shouldn't be saying this. What do you think you have to tell us? But guess what? I have a YouTube channel now, and this is my first video. And please subscribe and let's do this journey together. Thank you. So a brief recap on the techniques to beat the imposter syndrome. Number 1, face it and call it out. Number 2, know it is okay to be human. Number 3, embrace your vulnerability. Number 4, always know that you are not alone and there are a lot of people in the room experiencing the same thing. Number 5, channel the imposter syndrome positively to challenge yourself and to catapult yourself. Now, let me know in the comment section if you've had any dealings with the imposter guy. Are you dealing with the same imposter syndrome? Do you have the same experience as I've had? What techniques have worked for you if you have scaled through? If you need to discuss this further, or you have any general thought about this topic or this video, please put it in the comments and I'll make sure to respond to you in time. Thank you so much. If you're thinking of braving it and starting a whole new journey, perhaps you're thinking of getting a PhD, you might want to watch this video, which is the top 5 questions to ask for deciding to get a PhD degree. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.